Weary-eyed, with a soul burdened after an arduous 18 months battling in the far-flung colonies, Captain David Rodriguez disembarked the transport vessel yearning for a nourishing repast and a proper bed. The savage conflict against the extraterrestrial adversaries had been merciless, leaving David witness to the tragic demise of countless valiant comrades. Upon arriving at the military installation, his superior officer, Colonel Williams, summoned him. Anticipating the standard post-deployment report and perhaps some well-deserved respite, David was instead greeted with a beaming smile and commendation for his exceptional performance. "Rodriguez, your service has been exemplary. You've been one of our most valiant soldiers out there," the colonel declared as he poured a drink. "Your exceptional valor during the assault on Station 7 rescued countless lives. The military deeply desires to express its gratitude." David shifted uncomfortably. Something about the colonel's inflection felt amiss. "Thank you, sir. I was merely fulfilling my duty." Colonel Williams unveiled a unique honor, a testament to your unwavering commitment. He pressed a button, and 2 guards escorted a figure into the room. David's breath hitched. An alien, like those they'd fought, but different. Her pale blue skin shimmered ethereally under the lights, and her large violet eyes stared blankly ahead, devoid of emotion. "This is Zara," the colonel announced, "taken into custody during our latest operation. Intelligence suggests she poses minimal threat, likely a non-combatant. She's under your charge now, Rodriguez. Envision her as a dedicated aide, facilitating your reintegration into civilian life." David scrutinized the extraterrestrial woman. Her drab gray attire resembled a correctional facility uniform. Electronic restraints, emitting a faint luminescence, encircled her wrists. The entire situation reeked of impropriety. "I'm struggling to comprehend, sir," David stated, his voice measured. "You're ordering me to take custody of a prisoner?" Colonel Williams chuckled. "Not a prisoner, Rodriguez, but a prize. Spoils of war. She is yours now. Dispose of her as you see fit. This is your due for exemplary service." The declaration struck David like a physical blow, jarring his senses. He had enlisted to safeguard lives, not to possess them. Observing Zara, he perceived a sharp intellect veiled by a dignified facade, concealing deep-seated fear. This felt profoundly wrong. Yet David was acutely aware that insubordination was not tolerated within the military ranks, particularly when directives were cloaked as incentives. His livelihood, his retirement, his very destiny hinged on compliance. "Understood, sir," David replied, forcing a smile. "I value the opportunity." "Excellent," the colonel affirmed, handing David electronic keys. "These manage her containment. Maintain vigilance and remember her alien nature. Never fully confide in her, regardless of her apparent docility." 20 minutes later, David escorted Zara through the base housing area. Passing soldiers made crude remarks and lewd jokes, igniting David's embarrassment. Some congratulated him on his acquisition, while others offered proposals he found repulsive. David's apartment, though compact, was inviting, encompassing a living area, bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom. Previously his sanctuary before deployment, brimming with books, family photos, and recollections of pre-war life, it now resembled a confinement. "Please have a seat," David said, self-consciously indicating the sofa. Zara remained upright, her vibrant violet gaze meticulously assessing the space. She was likely identifying potential exits or armaments, David deduced, impressed. David retrieved a water glass from the kitchen, placing it on the table and retreating slightly. Parched and famished, Zara's gaze darted to the shimmering water, then returned to his visage, wordless. "Listen," David pressed on. "I realize you might not grasp much English, but I need you to understand this. I pose no threat to you." For the very first time, Zara's countenance shifted subtly. Her eyebrows arched a touch, as though mildly astonished. David registered he still clutched the electronic keys commanding her bonds, the metal icy and substantial in his grip. Following a brief pause, he activated the release. The luminous bands encircling Zara's wrists unlatched with a click and clattered to the ground. Zara gazed intently at her liberated hands, then at David, massaging her wrists where the restraints had chafed. David noticed crimson imprints on her delicate, cerulean skin. "Is that bedroom yours?" David inquired, gesturing down the corridor. "I shall take the couch." This instance, Zara's astonishment was unmistakable. Her lips parted ever so slightly, a delicate tilt of her head betraying her confusion. David retreated to his room, collecting plush blankets and a comforting pillow. Upon his return, Zara remained stationary, her captivating violet eyes fixed on him with keen intelligence. "Bedroom," David reiterated gently, gesturing towards it, then to himself. "Couch for me." Zara's gaze shifted between the bedroom and David. Then she voiced a melodic query in her native tongue, a series of enchanting sounds David couldn't decipher, but instinctively recognized as questions. "I'm uncertain what you're asking," David responded softly, "but rest assured, you're secure here, I pledge." He proceeded to prepare his makeshift bed on the couch, as Zara observed. Upon completion, she ambled towards the bedroom, lingering at the threshold for a final glance. "Good night," David murmured. Zara vanished inside, yet David discerned her movements for an extended period, likely scrutinizing windows, seeking avenues of escape, endeavoring to fathom the predicament she encountered. David reposed on the couch, fixated on the ceiling, replaying the day's occurrences. How had his existence deteriorated to this? How had safeguarding his nation culminated in possessing another human being? He mused over his sister, a compassionate teacher aiding displaced refugee children. What would her reaction be if she witnessed the military's perverse reward? His grandfather, a veteran of Earth's final devastating war, instilled in him the belief that soldiers safeguard the vulnerable. What shred of innocence remained when subjugating captured soldiers? As midnight approached, a hushed sound drifted from the bedroom. After a beat, David recognized the stifled, heart-wrenching sobs of Zara, quieted yet unmistakably grief-stricken. Overwhelmed by grief, David shut his eyes, desperately trying to silence the sound. But it was futile. Somewhere nearby, a person, not a mere object, had been brutally torn from everything she knew and callously handed over to a stranger, like some discarded possession. The incessant crying persisted for what seemed an eternity before abruptly ceasing. The ensuing silence was even more unbearable than the wails had been. As the first light of dawn crept through the window, David reached a life-altering resolution, a decision destined to irreversibly reshape their futures. He simply could not perpetuate this injustice. David was cornered by Zara's fate, unable to decline the military's offer without ruining his prospects. Yet he could determine her treatment, choosing to perceive her as an individual, not an asset, and perhaps discover redemption As dawn painted elongated shadows within the apartment, David finally succumbed to slumber, while Zara, secluded in the bedroom, gazed at a foreign sky, questioning her chances of ever returning home. The initial week with Zara felt precarious, like navigating shattered glass. David endeavored to craft a consistent schedule for their mutual well-being. Cozy, yet a subtle tension permeated. A sense of unease lingered. He'd rise with the dawn, brew coffee, and thoughtfully leave breakfast on the counter before his daily duty calls at the base. Upon his return each evening, the food would be vanished, but Zara remained secluded in the bedroom, door always sealed. At times, he'd perceive subtle movements, but she wouldn't emerge while he was there. On the pivotal 8th day, everything shifted. David arrived home and found Zara engaged, seated at his intimate dining table, absorbed in one of his cherished books, an age-old novel narrating space exploration, a story he adored during his adolescence. She glanced up as he stepped inside, and for the first time, she didn't instantly escape to the bedroom. "Greetings," she enunciated in deliberate English, her voice unexpectedly gentle, with a melodic charm akin to a song. David froze, utterly captivated. "You understand English a touch," Zara responded, pinching her thumb and forefinger to illustrate a tiny increment. "Acquired it through literature." David settled opposite her, his movements deliberate to avoid startling her. "How many languages do you command, Zara?" Zara hesitated, seemingly counting internally. "My native tongue, English, of course, and 3 additional languages from my planet." She caressed the book tenderly. "This book chronicles journeys to distant stars, mirroring your people's quest to locate my kind." "So you were a linguist?" David inquired. Zara affirmed, "I dedicated myself to languages prior to the war. I collaborate with others who aspire to communicate with humans. Our aspiration is for amity, not conflict." Those words impacted David more profoundly than anticipated. "You were striving for reconciliation?" "Indeed," Zara responded plainly. "But your—" "Soldiers stormed our comms station, convinced we forged weapons, not wisdom. They seized me when I pleaded." David's gut twisted. The brass said weapon factories, not peaceful hubs. Gazing at Zara, he knew their lie was unraveling. Days blurred into deeper talks. Zara's English blossomed. She gifted him her tongue, her name. Explained signified radiant star in her ancestral language. "Your kin?" David inquired over supper. "Tell me about them." Zara's eyes shimmered. "We cherish knowledge, construct metropolises in ecological balance, resonate in song, exchange narratives, conjure artistry. With sorrow, we fail to grasp humanity's penchant for conflict. We aspire only to serene existence." David discovered Zara had been engrossed in human culture for years preceding the war, possessing a more profound grasp of Earth's annals than numerous humans. She effortlessly quoted verses from disparate nations and elucidated intricate scientific concepts, theories in multiple languages. "Why are you so incredibly kind to me?" she inquired one evening. "Other humans view my kind as mere creatures, yet you offer me sustenance, knowledge, and esteem." David pondered the query deeply for a moment. "Because you are an individual," he responded at last. "Your appearance and origins are irrelevant. You possess thoughts, sentiments, aspirations, and trepidations, mirroring my own." Zara scrutinized his countenance intently. Not all of your people share this perspective, though, do they? No, David conceded. Many do not, but some of us absolutely do. As the weeks progressed, I started perceiving the war anew. The aliens weren't brutes or barbarians, as military spin suggested. They were individuals with families, cultures, and dreams, just like Zara, who strived to forge connections, not barriers. This shift in my worldview didn't escape notice at the base. During briefings, I posed tough questions about how prisoners were treated and civilian deaths. My comrades eyed me suspiciously when I questioned their assumptions about the enemy, Rodriguez. "You've been off lately," Tony observed after a strained meeting. "What's eating at you?" "Perhaps I'm weary of battling," David admitted. "Keep that quiet around the superiors." Such talk is frowned upon. They despise soldiers turning soft. The warning foreshadowed events. Colonel Williams summoned David the following week. "How are you acclimating to your commendation?" the colonel inquired, fixing himself a drink. "I'm well, sir," David responded cautiously. "Excellent. Some officers have been..." Hearing about her spread like wildfire, apparently. The colonel's grin sent shivers down David's spine. "Lieutenant Johnson was curious if you'd be inclined to share. Let the other lads have a go." Fury surged within David, yet he maintained a composed tone. "With utmost respect, sir, she was granted to me as a personal commendation. I would be grateful to retain her as such." Colonel Williams's gaze intensified. "Just bear in mind, Rodriguez, she is the military's possession. Avoid excessive attachment. Once this conflict concludes, the fate of all alien captives will be determined." That night, David found his appetite vanished. The colonel's chilling words reverberated in his mind. Dealt with accordingly. He understood the grim implications. "You seem preoccupied," Zara remarked, breaking through his thoughts. David gazed at her, truly observed her, and realized over the past month she'd become a confidant, not just a roommate. She'd laugh at his quips, share vibrant tales of her homeworld, and even leave whimsical sketches as tokens of affection. "Zara," he began tentatively. "Do you have family back home?" he inquired softly. Her face clouded with melancholy. "Indeed," she replied. "I have a bondmate, akin to a human husband, and 2 younglings." She revealed a small device concealed within her clothing. On the screen, a picture depicted 2 small beings with Zara's distinctive violet eyes. "I know not if they believe I am deceased." David gazed at the image. These were not monstrous creatures. They were children longing for their mother. "What fate awaits prisoners when the war concludes?" Zara questioned softly. David avoided her gaze. "I honestly don't know," he dissembled, though he knew the grim reality. That night, consumed by gnawing knowledge as he listened to Zara in the bedroom, David resolved on a life-altering choice. Powerless against the war and military doctrines, he could, however, rescue Zara. The quandary: achieving this without their mutual devastation. At the base, David's increasingly erratic conduct was surfacing. Strategy meetings saw him challenging directives seemingly aimed at civilian harm, not military targets. Targets after his commander outlined the alien settlement raid. David probed with challenging questions regarding non-combatant safety. "Rodriguez, what's your malfunction?" Captain Miller barked during a particularly strained briefing. "We're not dealing with human civilians here." "They're the adversary." "But sir," Intelligence suggests many settlements hold no strategic importance, David countered. They're simply families struggling for survival. The room hushed. 20 pairs of eyes bore into David, as if he'd sprouted another head. Captain Miller's face flushed crimson. "Soldier, I believe." "Remember your allegiance," Miller stated icily. "Perhaps fraternizing with your extraterrestrial companion has clouded your perception of the true adversary." David's face flushed with mortification and fury, yet he remained silent. Post-meeting, concerned comrades approached. "Dave, what's troubling you?" Lieutenant Chen inquired. "You've been acting oddly for weeks. What's going on, buddy?" "I'm just weary of this relentless conflict," David responded wearily. "Aren't we all? But that doesn't justify empathy for the adversary. That alien's infiltrating your psyche. Consider a reassignment. Expel her before catastrophe strikes." David trudged home, burdened. His apartment felt like a haven after the base's animosity. Zara cooked dinner with David's ingredients, transforming rations into palatable meals. "You seem melancholy," she noted, offering him food. "Issues arise," David remarked, settling at their customary dinner table. "Other soldiers resent your kindness towards me," Zara observed softly. It was a statement, not a question. David, intrigued, glanced up. "I perceive their glares when you're near. I occasionally overhear their whispers outside our abode." Zara sat across from him. "I'm creating complications." "Absolutely not," David retorted resolutely. "They are the root of the predicament." During their meal, Zara painted vivid pictures of her distant homeland, recounting majestic libraries where she once learned and serene gardens where children frolicked, and the vibrant music festivals that united diverse communities. Everything she depicted resonated with beauty and civility, unlike the brutal alien world the military had fabricated in pre-war propaganda. Zara stated, "Many among my people envisioned peaceful coexistence between humans and my kind. We immersed ourselves in your cultures, languages, and art, eager to mutually learn what transpired to alter this." David inquired. "Fear," Zara responded. "Merely your leaders propagated the notion of our dangerousness. Our leader articulated the fear can drive humans to commit atrocities." That night, David was restless, haunted by Zara's stories of her lost family and the serene world she once knew. The more he understood her people, the clearer it became. The war was a tapestry woven from deceit and miscommunication. A thunderous knock shattered his thoughts. He glanced at the clock. 2 a.m. Who could be calling at this ungodly hour? He cautiously opened the door to find Sergeant Blake, notorious for his ruthlessness. Blake, visibly inebriated and unsteady, pushed past David, his eyes bloodshot. "Heard about your exotic alien toy, Dave. Thought you might generously share with your comrades." David's blood froze. "You need to leave immediately." Blake scoffed. "Don't be stingy, Dave. We're all brothers in arms. Camaraderie demands sharing." Blake's gaze swept the room. "Where is she?" David, knowing Zara was eavesdropping, retorted, "She's not here." Blake's tone hardened. "Don't patronize me." Escalating, "I know she's lurking somewhere," the colonel asserted. "These extraterrestrials are obligated to assist us." "Well, I demand some assistance, immediately." Blake advanced towards the bedroom, but David intercepted him. "You're not approaching her," David warned, his tone menacingly low. Blake scoffed. "What, you believe you possess her? She's military property, Rodriguez, meaning she's accessible to all of us. Vacate my residence, David commanded, his fists tightening. Or what? You'll engage me in combat over an alien? Blake's gaze intensified. You know what I suspect. I suspect. You've mellowed. You've lost your edge. I believe you've lost touch with your humanity, David retorted. Blake lunged, but David anticipated the attack. Instincts honed through years of military precision ignited. He evaded the telegraphed punch, seized Blake's arm, and wrenched it sharply behind his back. I said get out, David hissed menacingly into Blake's ear. This isn't finished, Rodriguez, Blake snarled as David propelled him towards the exit. The colonel will be informed. They're shielding the adversary. Following Blake's departure, David secured the door, his heart hammering in his chest after a tense interlude. Later, Zara appeared from the bedroom, her face ashen with dread. I overheard everything, she whispered, her voice trembling. He intended to harm me. They'll never have that opportunity, David vowed, his voice resolute. I will never permit anyone to injure you. Yet even as the words left his lips, David realized their clock was ticking. Blake would undoubtedly report the incident, and the colonel would soon be seeking answers. David would imminently face a crucial decision: his esteemed military career versus Zara's safety. The following morning, David requested an audience with Colonel Williams, entering the office with the stark awareness that his life was about to be irrevocably altered. About to be irrevocably altered. Rodriguez, the colonel declared, eyes fixed on his documents. I understand there was an incident last night. Sergeant Blake, you allegedly denied your comrades access to the extraterrestrial detainee. Is that accurate, sir? David affirmed rigidly at a tension that displays a distinct lack of camaraderie. Soldier, these beings are vital assets for the military intended to significantly elevate troop morale. David inhaled deeply. Sir, respectfully, I posit that objectifying captives is morally reprehensible. Colonel Williams finally glanced up, eyes like ice-wrong sun. These extraterrestrial invaders extinguished thousands of our brethren. They are the undeniable foe, not allies. But, Commander, what if our assessments are flawed? What if a glimmer of reconciliation exists? The colonel rose deliberately, his countenance flushed with fury. Rodriguez, he began, I shall feign deafness to your statement. You will return home and meticulously contemplate your allegiance. Should I perceive further advocacy for these alien sympathizers, your military aspirations shall be irrevocably terminated. David ambled homeward, acutely aware that his career was likely already forfeit, surpassed the point of no return. Yet as he unlocked his apartment to find Zara's anxious gaze, regret vanished. Certain values eclipsed career ambitions. Some battles warranted sacrifice, even at the expense of all else. David sensed his days were numbered following the showdown with Colonel Williams. Demotion to desk duty and constant surveillance became his reality. Military police began conducting intrusive security checks at his home. David's pulse hammered as their scrutinizing gazes swept his home. They're surveilling us, Zara whispered one night after the MPs departed. Soon they'll snatch me away. David yearned to reassure her, but truth choked him. The military's tolerance for his actions waned, and whispers swelled that he'd grown excessively fond of his extraterrestrial captive. Everything shifted upon David's encounter with Dr. Lisa Park, a translator at the base aiding in alien interrogations. David had glimpsed her previously, yet never engaged until she approached him in the mess hall one afternoon. "Captain Rodriguez," she murmured, settling across from him. "I understand you've been inquiring about prisoner welfare." David stiffened, suspecting a setup. "Is that an issue, Doctor?" Park glanced around cautiously before leaning in. "Not for me. Quite the contrary. I believe we need a discussion, but not here." That evening, Dr. Park arrived at David's apartment. A petite woman in her early 40s, her kind eyes framed by graying hair. Seeing Zara, her face softened instantly. "Blow," Dr. Park greeted in Zara's native tongue. Zara's eyes widened in astonishment, and with genuine pleasure, she replied swiftly in her native language, and before long, they were engaged in a vibrant exchange. "She mentions you've shown her great kindness," Dr. Park interpreted for David. "She also expresses concern for you, noting that the other soldiers disapprove of your treatment of her." Dr. Park then paused, and David inquired cautiously, "Why are you truly here?" The doctor remained silent for a beat, then revealed, "Because after collaborating with extraterrestrial detainees for 2 years, I've discovered something the military refuses to acknowledge. These beings aren't savage brutes. They're fundamentally similar to us. They possess family's aspirations, their very essence, and we're mistreating them abominably." Dr. Park revealed she'd been covertly chronicling the maltreatment of extraterrestrial detainees, possessing irrefutable video evidence, audio logs, and sworn testimonies substantiating the military's egregious violations of interstellar prisoner welfare protocols. But significantly, she pressed, "I've been facilitating their liberation." David's heart pounded. "Escape? How?" "A clandestine network exists, united in the conviction that this conflict is unjust. Soldiers, medics, even certain government figures. We aid detainees in reaching sanctuary in neutral territories." Zara absorbed every word as Dr. Park meticulously detailed the clandestine network. Fortified havens, empathetic starship captains, and crucial rendezvous points scattered across human territories. The operation was fraught with peril. Anyone found aiding extraterrestrial captives risked severe punishment. "Why confide in me?" David questioned. "Because Zara possesses unique value," Dr. Park declared. "Before the conflict, she spearheaded translation efforts for peace talks. Securing her safety could reignite diplomatic channels and, hopefully, terminate this devastating war." David glanced at Zara, her violet eyes fixed on Dr. Park, now shimmering with a hopeful glimmer he hadn't witnessed before. "What actions are required of us?" David inquired. Dr. Park produced a tablet, displaying a map. "A freighter departs Port Harrison in 72 hours. The captain is an ally, having aided numerous prisoners in fleeing to neutral territory. However, transporting Zara there poses a significant risk. We must navigate through 2 military checkpoints, and apprehension would result in the captain facing treason charges and Zara's immediate execution." The gravity of the choice weighed heavily on David, like an immense burden. His lifelong dedication, his professional trajectory, his retirement security, his very future would be obliterated if their actions were discovered. But gazing at Zara, David understood his existence was already in ruins. He could no longer endure living under a system that commodified human beings. "I'm committed," David declared softly. In the subsequent days, Dr. Park unveiled to David the other pivotal members of their covert operation. Lieutenant Johnson from the Transportation Division, poised to secure transport, Nurse Rita from the infirmary, ready to forge essential medical documentation, and Communications Officer Tom, who might disrupt tracking signals. Every individual David encountered possessed a unique narrative explaining their commitment to the resistance. Lieutenant Johnson's sibling perished in the conflict, yet he subsequently discovered the fatal assault targeted a civilian refuge, not a military installation. Nurse Rita administered care to injured extraterrestrial detainees and personally witnessed their intrinsic humanity. Communications Officer Tom intercepted correspondence between alien families frantically seeking lost kin. "We're not insurgents," Dr. Park elucidated during a gathering. "We aspire to shield both factions from mutual annihilation due to deceit and misinterpretations." The scheme was intricate, yet straightforward. David would seek a medical absence, asserting Zara was unwell and required care at a public hospital. Lieutenant Johnson would transport them in an ambulance to the initial control point. Subsequently, Nurse Rita would chaperone them to the subsequent checkpoint, utilizing forged relocation authorizations. Ultimately, communications expert Tom would guide them to the space station where the freighter awaited. "What transpires afterward?" David questioned. "If we are victorious, I can never return." "The organization possesses sanctuaries in non-aligned territory," Dr. Park clarified. "Humans who've aided extraterrestrial detainees are warmly embraced there. A fresh existence awaits." The eve prior to the breakout, David and Zara convened in their abode for a final moment. She had been augmenting his linguistic prowess, and he, reciprocating with tales of Earth and the tapestry of human culture. "I am apprehensive," Zara confessed, "yet simultaneously optimistic for the first instance in numerous moons. I possess hope." "I share your sentiment," David responded. "Irrespective of tomorrow's occurrences, I wish for you to be cognizant that our encounter metamorphosed my very being. You unveiled the authentic essence of humanity." Zara extended her reach. He seized her hand. Her skin, cool and sleek, met his, yet her grasp was surprisingly firm and welcoming. "You rescued me," she stated plainly, "not only from captivity, but from relinquishing faith in your kind." As slumber beckoned, a peculiar tranquility enveloped David. Tomorrow would usher in either liberation or devastation, but he remained steadfast in his conviction that he was acting justly. Certain choices transcend self-preservation. Certain bonds merit unparalleled risk. Occasionally, righteousness demands a transgression of conventions. The day of their daring departure dawned, bleak and frigid. David stirred before the sunrise. Dawn, his stomach was a tempest of nervous anticipation. Today held either liberation or utter devastation, no compromise. Zara was already stirring by the window, engrossed in the nascent dawn. She had meticulously braided her hair and donned the everyday garments. Dr. Park procured since captivity, she appeared strikingly ordinary, a soul simply journeying onward. "Poised?" David queried, glancing at his timepiece. "Lieutenant Johnson's arrival imminent." "I've been primed since my capture," Zara retorted. "David, there's something vital you need to understand. Should we be apprehended, you must assert I coerced you, claim I menaced you." "Absolutely not," David retorted, resolute. "We are inextricably bound in this endeavor." Precisely at 8 o'clock a.m., a medical transport materialized before the building. Lieutenant Johnson, adorned in his formal attire, brandished seemingly legitimate documents, projecting a standard prisoner relocation. "Remember, Johnson instructed as they boarded. "Zara is a patient needing transfer for vital treatment, and David, you serve as her escort. Have your military ID readily accessible and avoid offering superfluous details." The initial checkpoint proceeded seamlessly. The guards offered a cursory glance at their documents before permitting entry. David began to harbor optimism, but Johnson remained apprehensive. "The subsequent checkpoint presents a greater challenge," Johnson elucidated as they traversed the city. "Sergeant Peterson oversees it, and he harbors suspicion towards all individuals. Maintain composure and permit me to conduct the discourse." Midway to the second checkpoint, Johnson's radio emitted a burst of static, followed by a message that sent a chill down David's spine. "All units, be advised. Vigilantly pursuing fugitive extraterrestrial detainee Z-47, rumored to be accompanied by insubordinate military operatives. Subject is highly perilous and potentially armed." Johnson swiftly maneuvered the conveyance into a concealed alley, extinguishing the engine. His complexion was ashen with apprehension. "They're aware," he murmured. "Someone compromised us." David felt disoriented. "What's our course of action? The checkpoint is impenetrable now," Johnson lamented. "However, Dr. Park anticipated this contingency. An alternative path exists via the industrial sector. It's fraught with peril, but it could be viable." Ditched the ambulance, proceeding on foot. Zar concealed her appearance with a hood, navigating shadowy alleys and desolate warehouses. Each noise amplified David's anxiety. Footfalls, distant vehicles, even the breeze felt ominous. After an arduous hour, they arrived at an abandoned factory, where Nurse Rita anxiously awaited near a nondescript vehicle. "The whole system's been exposed," she urgently whispered. "Dr. Park's been apprehended." "Morning. We've got barely an hour before they pinpoint our location." The relentless journey to Port Harrison seemed to drag on forever. Each police car David spotted made him instinctively clench. Every checkpoint left his palms slick with apprehension. Yet miraculously, they slipped into the spaceport undetected. Communications officer Tom, disguised as a maintenance technician, greeted them at a discreet entrance, his expression severe. "The cargo freighters still docked, but military police are swarming the main terminals," he revealed. "They're scrutinizing every traveler, every manifest. Boarding that vessel is now an almost insurmountable challenge." David felt a profound despair begin to engulf him. They had journeyed so far, braved such immense risks, only to find themselves ensnared at the very brink of success. "Perhaps there remains an alternative," Tom ventured hesitantly, "though it's fraught with peril. A supply shuttle is scheduled for departure to the orbiting research station. From that vantage, you could conceivably transfer to a civilian vessel bound for neutral territories." "What's the impediment?" David inquired. "The research station is under the stewardship of Dr. Helen Wu. While she's amenable to our objectives, reaching her necessitates concealment within supply modules for a grueling 3-hour ascent. Discovery would spell disaster." "We'll embrace that risk," David stated resolutely. Swiftly, Tom guided them via service ducts to the freight bay. The provision crates were stifling and somber, providing meager air for the voyage. As they readied to embark, Tom gifted David a compact comms unit. "Dr. Wu will hail you once the coast is clear," he affirmed. "David, be aware that your actions today shall resonate through history. You're instrumental in concluding this conflict." The journey to the scientific outpost marked David's most protracted 3 hours. Trapped within the shadowed crate alongside Zara, he attentively heeded the Engine sounds filled the air, each jolt fueling their anxiety about discovery. Zara gripped his hand in the inky blackness, their mutual presence a source of fortitude. As the shuttle secured, containers emptied. David heard the comms unit hiss, "Dr. Wu, all clear. Welcome to Liberty." Dr. Wu appeared, a petite yet formidable woman, ruling her research station with unwavering authority. She ushered David and Zara from the containers, swiftly orchestrating their transit to neutral territory. "The starship Aurora departs in approximately 2 hours," she clarified. "Captain Rodriguez, unrelated to anyone you know, I believe, has been tirelessly delivering crucial resources to the neutral zone for several months now. He's a true asset." As they anticipated their launch, Dr. Wu shared the latest news bulletins, detailing how the alien sympathizer movement was gaining traction across human territories. While some labeled them as disloyal, many were initiating critical discussions regarding the conflict and the way prisoners are treated. "A paradigm shift is inevitable," Dr. Wu predicted thoughtfully, "and it's individuals like yourselves who are facilitating this evolution." When the Aurora, David gazed through the porthole, Earth receding into the cosmos, shedding his past self, yet beside Zara, tranquility gracing her face, he felt liberated. Half a year elapsed, finding them in Haven Colony, a harmonious human-alien settlement. David, now a translator bridging cultures, aided newly freed prisoners, while Zara, reunited with kin via interstellar comms, collaborated with fellow ex-captives. To meticulously chronicle war atrocities and strategize for future peace talks, the conflict persisted, yet fissures emerged in the propaganda apparatus. An increasing number of soldiers scrutinized directives, more civilians clamored for explanations, and a growing segment on both sides started acknowledging the similarities between themselves and their adversaries. "Do you ever harbor regrets?" Zara inquired of David one evening, observing human and alien children frolicking harmoniously in the colony's central park. David reflected upon his former existence, the military path, the retirement benefits, the esteem of his colleagues. Observing the children's joyful laughter and diverse families united over shared meals, embodying hope for a brighter tomorrow, he declared with heartfelt simplicity, "This is the essence of freedom." In that moment, David Rodriguez experienced a profound sense of pride for the first time in years.